any empirical research, we cannot just make elastic conclusions. So by way of introduction, I am at a loss for now until maybe I'll get the opportunity to listen to the other panelists.
All right. Wonderful analysis there, Mr. Berete. Thank you very much for that. And that is Mr. Berete, Abdullah Berete from National Publicity and Outreach Coordinator with the Office of the Government, and he's also a government spokesman. He just addressed the topic, 3 elections after the war, Sierra Leone really polarized. And he pinned his finger particularly on the word, the premise, really is the word that he took to task. Well, you know, he's raised some very brilliant arguments to the point that, in his view, he's against the assertion that Sierra Leone is really polarized, and based on the fact, if we look at one of the worst chapters we've had in our history in the country, which is the RUF, the Rebel War, which concluded in 2002, that war would have been catalyzed by sinking into tribal, into sort of like a tribal conflict across the country, but it never did, which is a testament to the fact that we have never actually been polarized as a nation. This is just something, I think, if we can say the media drums up, the media drums up, but Sierra Leone is truly really not polarized, that we tend to see ourselves as a nation. Is this a fact? Is this the way we need to, is that the way things really are? But as we go along, we'll address this, and we'll dissect it. And let me give the other panelists a chance to come on board and give a take on what they think about the topic. I will now turn my attention to Mr. Sheikh Sharif, who's an avid blogger, a very well-known blogger, based in the United States, in Minnesota. He writes the Shagwema Diary, very good blog. I read it myself. And Mr. Sharif, you've heard the other panelists introduce the topic, and I know you know what the topic is. And once again, I'll repeat it. 3 elections after the war, is Sierra Leone really polarized? Is Sierra Leone polarized, Mr. Sharif?
I love this topic, and I think it is about time that we talk about the polarization of our country. If sometimes you need to just listen to the frequency of certain terms for you to know how topical a particular debate or issues in society. When we were like before the elections, during those years, like in the early 90s, the frequency of the use of the word polarization, that was not a word that was very common. Those days we are talking more about, corruption and other things, but polarization was that. But listen, what I want us all to be is realistic. We have issues where we have had 3 elections. SLPP was in government over those for the first 2 elections. SLPP won those 2 elections. APC has won 2 elections now. We now have a multi-party system in place. Multi-party is inherently polarizing. There is no country in Africa where multi-party doesn't bring polarization. Even in America, here, Leslie, you live here. Mm-hmm. Republican Party and the Democratic Party polarize in some way society, like you have those who are in the South versus those who are in the North. Sometimes you have people talking about the haves and the have-nots. There's the exact degree of polarization. Unfortunately, in Africa, we make these promises when we are running for political power. And then unfortunately, reality hits us that some of these promises are very good to make when you're out of government. But when you come into government, they become very difficult to put into place because you're faced with the reality of resource availability. You're faced with the reality of the skill set of the people you are dealing with. You look at the reality of the literacy level of your population. because these are the real primers of development. These are the real movers of development, not the plans you have. Because no matter how beautiful the plan you have, if the educational system in your country is not strong, if the entrepreneurial resources are not strong in your country, it is very difficult to put this into place. Faced with this reality sometimes, and faced with the fact that you want to still pursue your agenda, the next thing we turn to is try to see, hey, how best can I get people to support my cause? This has always been the history of Africa. So we try to have this regional support, and then people start affiliating a particular party or a particular system with a particular region, and that is what is happening in Sierra Leone. If somebody says that Sierra Leone is not polarized right now, it is. Unfortunately, you can't blame any one person for it. That's the way the system is. Historically, SLPP has been southeastern, APC has been western, northern based. That is the way. And unfortunately, when this, for the past 2 election cycles, or the past 3 election cycles, that is how these differences have become more marked. So what we have to do, I believe, is to accept this fact that that is the way it is. As when we accept the fact that this society is really polarized, and then we can look at ways, honestly, without blaming anybody, that we can say, okay, how do we fight this scourge in our society? Because any system where people feel marginalized, any system where people feel they don't have a stake, any system where people feel they are somehow regarded as being as somehow not having the full rights of their citizenship, that system is inherently unstable.
Okay.
Mr. Berretti,
all right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Berretti and I love the fact that he's the one that is on this panel, because we were students in college at the same time. I know him. He has never been anybody that is polarizing. So that is just my own few minutes of introduction for now, and we'll continue with the debate. But I sincerely believe that the society is polarized as it is right now.
Okay, thank you, Sheikh. That's a very brilliant introduction to the topic, and we're addressing the topic: Sierra Leone polarized 3 elections after. The main thing here is we want to, we're throwing the topic with the word around polarized. In every society, definitely, just like Sheikh just said, has a level of polarization. But how acute it is what the problem is. Is it polarized to a point where it becomes a danger to the society? It becomes something that needs to be addressed and arrested there and then. If not, then is the polarization healthy? Is it something that's needed? Is it something that's needed for to keep others in line, in lockstep in line, as we'll say? So what we want to do is we'll take a short break, and we'll come into this the next phase where we'll dissect the topic some more. We'll give the panelists some more chance to actually go in more detail into looking at the issue of polarization in Sierra Leone on regional as well as on tribal, as well as in any other which way you may want to look at it as a problem for our society. Once again, you're listening to Voices from the Diaspora, and you're listening to the program 3 Elections After the War. Is Sierra Leone really polarized? We'll take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Some people that been the block say they know they want sweet soda soap. Some people that been the block say they know they want sweet soda soap. Soda soap they put them close, it they give them crock. Some people that been the block say they know they want sweet soda soap. Some people that been the block say they know they want sweet soda soap. Soda soap they put them close, it they give them crock. They want smart money, they want Rexona, they want Sarah soap, they want sweet block soap, they want sweet imperial. So sad, so. Papa. Everybody don't turn up, oh.
Hello again, listeners. You're listening to Voices from the Diaspora, and we're addressing the topic, 3 elections after the war. Is Sierra Leone really polarized? And we have on our panel today, Mr. Abdoulaye Berete, government official, who's here to help address the topic. Ms. Aissata Mahoy of Milan, Italy, who's a PhD student in economic policy. And Mr. Sheikh Sharif, who's an avid blogger with the Sheikh Diary. We were supposed to have Mr. Hassan Sisse, who's Member of Parliament for the Tonkolili district, one of the constituencies in the Tonkolili district, but Mr. Hassan is said to join us. At this stage, we want to open up this discussion. We want to look at, we want to ask the panelists to kind of go deeper into this topic. Well, I'll give a little background to this before we get started. You know, back in 1884, the colonial powers that were decided to dissect Africa into different countries that we know today. Sierra Leone was born then as a nation. Many other countries in Africa were born then. But the unfortunate fact is that none of our people had a say in that partition that took place in the Berlin Conference in 1884. In short, our people were lumped together from different tribes under what we call sovereign nations today. The problem with that has been that there were several regional powers back then in form of tribes that were sort of like loggerheads with each other, and some of these tribes were lumped together in different countries, in different regions. The problem is prevalent in Nigeria. It is prevalent across Africa in general. So Sierra Leone is not just a unique situation here. It's just a symptom of what is across Africa. In the last decade, while Sierra Leone was experiencing its own war, there was also another significant problem with tribal issues in Rwanda, where in an orgy of violence, over 1 million people were killed due to regionalization, polarization. Is this a situation with Sierra Leone? Mr. Berete addressed the issue of the war and how it never sunk to regional and tribal lines. Because if you look at the makeup of the area, like you rightly said, it is definitely made up of a collection of Sierra Leoneans from different regions. So do we really have a problem of polarization in Sierra Leone? This is a background to what we're talking about today. And we want to address this issue because as a nation, I believe, despite the fact that we went through one of the worst chapters in history with the war, I think we have a big potential as a nation to be united. I think in so many ways we're united, but we still have detractors who will try to divide us along tribal lines and along certain lines, unfortunately, for personal gains. But do Sierra Leoneans know better? That's the issue we're addressing here today. I will go directly to Ms. Aissata Mahoy. And Ms. Aissata Mahoy, I would like for you to elaborate further on your last point that you started out with in the first segment, given the background that I just gave. So, Ms. Aissata Mahoy, the floor is yours.
Okay, so much. And one thing I would like to say first to applaud Sierra Leoneans is that Sierra Leone is a sweet country, and we are sweet people. As you can see, there has been a lot of intermarriages going on in the country. But like I said, there is polarization when it comes to politics. And the people that are polarizing the situation is the politicians themselves. We all know that in Sierra Leone, everything is about politics, and politics is everything. The politics of the key political players is likely to continue like this if we are not careful. Why? Because, like I said, when it's time for politics, when it's time for elections, they are the ones that are like going to feed the common citizens, the poor people, the illiterate people. They feed them with what?